Hello everyone, welcome to Le Castellet here in the south of France. It's the Paul Ricard circuit for round 5 of our Ferrari Challenge for 2024. What a calendar it has been, and what a location this is. Paul Ricard on the south of France. Beautiful location, beautiful weather, and a beautiful calendar for 2024, as I alluded to. Having been to Mugello, to Balaton, to Jerez, to Portimao, here we are in Le Castellet with Nürburgring and Imola still to come before the end of our 2024 season. So the Paul Ricard circuit then, which saw its first race back in 1970, is quite a test for our drivers. 3 very distinct sectors. Sector 1 and Sector 3 are very technical. Sector 2 is all about power, really. There are 15 turns across the 5.842 kilometers. 6 of them are left and 9 of them are right-handers. So lots of places for lots of action. During our Coppa race, which is about to come, 52 degrees, the track temperature, air temperature is 32 degrees, 11 kilometers per hour of wind, just to take the edge off the air temperature at the moment. So unbroken sunshine, that's what we've had since we've been here all week long here in the south of France at the circuit Paul Ricard. It is the Ferrari Challenge with the Coppa race to come, 30 minutes plus 1 lap, and this is the car that's on pole position for Zeus Scrimpias, driver of the car number 168. What a season he has had. 5 wins across the season, and if he hasn't been winning, apart from 1 non-finish, he has been on the podium as well, so he has done a very good job in Coppa. What makes it even more remarkable is the fact that he's done it in his first year of racing. Alongside me, Nico, I mean, we've seen drivers come into the Ferrari Challenge and take to it very well indeed. I think Zeus is a very good example of that, isn't it? But even more remarkable is the fact he'd done no racing until the Ferrari Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is really a talent, and we could, when we talked to Giorgio Senaggiotto back at the beginning of the year, he told us, well, the first time Zeus went into the car, you could immediately see his talent level, and so his talent certainly plays a big part. Also playing a big part is the team, and the Anico team have put not only him on pole position, but also Shintaro Akatsu alongside on the front row, so having the right team and the confidence and the material and the chemistry certainly helps.
We're looking at the Lisa Clark car. Lisa Clark, a well-travelled Ferrari Challenge racer who races not only here in Europe, but North America as well. Also down there with the very vibrant green shorts was the Coppa champion from last year, Nico, who's down there racing in Coppa at the moment. And it was good to see him down on the grid, as he always is. He's one of the most passionate Ferrari drivers and Ferrari enthusiasts there. Motohiko Sasaki. We saw him with these bright green shorts. I'm sure we'll see him again in just a moment or two, because he's down in the thick of the grid down there, and just really enjoying everything. And the Josef Schumacher car is one of the more colourful cars on the track, and pit crew also particularly colourful in their shirts, I have to say. And there is the Josef Schumacher car. That is the Paolo Scudieri car, and Paolo Scudieri will be starting from P11 on our grid. In the 101 car, there's the Mutlu Tarzev 134 for Mutlu Tarzev, then driving for the Emil Frey racing team. And I spoke at lunchtime to Andrea Levi, who's driver of car number 171, who yesterday, the Rosso Corsa racer that is Andrea Levi, conducted a remarkable and brilliant overtake going into the chicane on the Mistral Straight.
Yeah, it was kind of like threw it around the outside of one of the cars on the inside of another car, and all of a sudden he went all the way to Portimao and back and was first into the chicane. That's how it felt. It was really like you're not being told or taught a move like that, but he made it work and he made it stick, and that was really, really entertaining. Great race overall yesterday, as I said.
We've seen some awesome racing from Ferrari Challenge right across the weekend, and we're sure we're going to see plenty more in the Coppa Am race still to come, as the cameraman just avoids the tyre trolley there. And all the drivers and engineers and everyone preparing for the final race of our weekend here in Paul Ricard. What a race weekend it has been. We've been blessed with supreme weather, that's for sure. There to the right hand side of your picture is the Shintaro Akatsu car. Great job he did in qualifying, and in qualifying Zoe Scrimpias did not have it all his own way, Nico. I mean, Shintaro really chased him to that pole position, so much so that he took P2 in the end, but yeah, nothing was guaranteed really until the session had come to a complete close.
Yeah, no, that is very fair, and Zoe Scrimpias eventually he prevailed, and Shintaro Akatsu, for him it's the mission podium. He has been so visible and so strong for the majority of the season, but that podium for some reason or another on many occasions has eluded him. So from P2 he will aim to stay ideally on terms with Zoe Scrimpias, but certainly he wants to make sure that he ends up on the podium here. It's been a great season thus far, but it hasn't been crowned.
You're right. See the Jan Sandman car, or we could see the Jan Sandman car, which is lining up ahead of Andrea Levy. We are 3 minutes away from the Coppa Am race start. There are some 17 cars on the grid, and there you can see the 3-minute board goes up. And there is the front row. Now, this circuit, Paul Ricard, the president of which is somebody that's very well known to Ferrari, and that is one Mr. Jean Alesi.
Ferrari is my heart. I have really a passion for the brand. I've been very lucky in my life to race Formula One for 5 years, and with Ferrari's racing. The technology is just amazing. I feel to make many more laps. Absolutely well balanced, but the car is just wonderful to drive.
Once a racer, always a racer. Once a Ferrari racer, always a Ferrari racer. Jean Alesi. I had great fun speaking to him, I have to say, and yeah, so passionate about Ferrari, and he just relished the opportunity to be out in a challenge car, Nico, and he did go out and he did a bad job.
Oh, well, and I think you understanding the circuit and having the racing pedigree and experience that he has, his word certainly counts for something, and you could tell that he was excited by driving the car and taking it around his circuit.
Yes, and here we go with 60 seconds remaining then before the race gets underway. It's the final race of our Ferrari Challenge weekend here at Circuit Paul Ricard, and what a weekend we have had. It's a great shot going through the window there, and all non-essential staff leave the grid now, and we are but a few moments away from the race getting underway here live from the Circuit Paul Ricard in the south of France. And the front row occupied by Zoe Scrimpias and Shintaro Akatsu. Behind them, Jan Salmon and Eric Chung. Do not rule them out of this equation, because they are all feisty drivers who are very keen on success. So stand by then. We are just moments away from the cars being released on their formation lap. So the Richard Mills safety car will lead the cars away on their formation lap. We get the green flag from the marshal at the rear of the pack. That is the indication that the safety car can lead the cars away then. Bringing the grid in full from back to front, so that you can see who is going from where and when on this particular grid for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am. So on row 9 it is Talal Shayer, P17. Expect to see him potentially do some overtaking. P16 is with Alvaro Ramos, with Josef Schumacher alongside P15. On row 7 it's Hassan Debussy going from P14, P13 for Mudlu Tazev. On row 6, Lisa Clark, P12, Paolo Scudieri, P11. To the 5th row of our grid right now, where we find Stephen Earle, P10, and Roland Hurtner going from P9. Their qualifying times on the graphics as well. Andreas Koenig, another driver that will do some overtaking from row 4. He has Guy Favre alongside him. Then it's Giuseppe Romelli and Andrea Levy. They are P6 and 5. P4 for Eric Chung. P3 for Jan Sandman. And then to the front row of the grid, Shintaro Akatsu was just bested for pole position by Zoe Skrimpias. He goes from P1. So Zoe Skrimpias then has made something of a habit in qualifying of putting the car P1, and we heard from him after his pole position in qualifying earlier.
Good morning. For sure, strange quali. Super happy about the time. Was my target to go below 4. But the first 2 pushing laps, I was, I don't know, I was somewhere else. And at the end, I was a little bit, I feel like I need to push now or never. So it was strange quali. But at the end, I managed it. Thank you.
Strange or not, Zois, you did it, and yeah, put it into the 203s, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And what he was referring to, he had a spin on his previous attempt, and therefore, with 4 minutes remaining, he was way down the order. But it just showed the maturity that belies his status as a, and I say that with all respect, rookie.
Yeah.
He didn't lose his head, he stayed calm, and he put in the laps that he had to do, did it in time, and then that gives him that pole position.
You're absolutely right. It was unorthodox, to say the least, in terms of his qualifying, but made it stick when it needed to count. So the cars will line up side by side in grid formation. The Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane. It will be the responsibility of Zoe Skrimpias to control the pace of the rolling start then. 2 drivers that will be very, very eager at the start, who have got the inside line, Nico, are Jan Sandman and Andrea Levy. They are 2 drivers I would recommend keeping an eye on. Zoe Skrimpias then and Shintaro Akatsu are on the front row of the pack, but as I say, Jan Salmon and Andrea Levy, and let's not discount Eric Chung out of this either. So a lot could happen, and this is the Ferrari Challenge, therefore it probably will. Stand by for a late move by the safety car into the pit lane. In it goes right now. Here we go. It is the final race of our race weekend of Ferrari Challenge here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, round 5 of our Ferrari Challenge season for 2024. The cars round the final turn. The lighting gantry you can see to the top left-hand side of your screen. When the lights go out, we will be racing. So it's Skrimpias and Shintaro Akatsu as the lights go out. And I said one to keep an eye on might be Jan Sandman and also Andrea Levy. Jan Sandman has been called out there, I think, by maybe Giuseppe Romelli going into turn number 1, but Zoe Skrimpias did what he needed to do. Another driver that will try and make hay while the sun shines is Andreas Koenig, as Stephen Earle, I believe, had to take to the runoff area, and he'll have to give some places back, I would suggest, as Zoe Skrimpias has done a very good job right at the start of the race and has already gapped himself to our P2 driver Shintaro Akatsu. Here comes Jan Salmon then, running wide. Andreas Koenig also trying to get up the order as well, and well, for the first few corners, you can see Jan Salmon, who has managed to get ahead of Eric Chung.
Yeah,
Hassan Debussy, forgive me.
Sorry, and watch Jan Salmon into the chicane. He really lost the position after having a very good start, but he really wants to get back on terms with Giuseppe Romelli. Can he do it? Not here, I think.
Well, there is Andrea Levy then, just putting himself ahead of Roland Hurtner. And Roland Hurtner running out onto the runoff area, and he's run alongside Paolo Scudieri, and Paolo Scudieri goes through now. So Zois Grimpias from Shintaro Akatsu, then Giuseppe Romelli, who I regret to say is not one that I'd picked up as being potentially going to be lively right at the start, but by Jiminy he was, as Andreas Koenig right behind the car of Eric Chung.
Yeah, and Andreas Koenig had a series of 3 not so good finishes, was a little bit feeling not perfectly in Portimao, and here he goes past Eric Chung, and there are a few cars running wide into that first time into the final sector, and Andreas Koenig, he's moving up the order, and he's on the back of Jan Sadman, who in turn is trying to get back on terms with Giuseppe Romelli.
Stephen Earle, who's running in P7, is being investigated for leaving the track and gaining something of an advantage. I think he really rather had to be honest with you, but there you can see that confirmed from race control. So Jan Salmon then really tracking Giuseppe Romelli. And going into turn number 1 is Jan Salmon going to try and get to the inside here. This is for potentially P3. Well, Giuseppe Romelli right royally closed the door on Jan Salmon, so it's as we were then with Giuseppe Romelli P3, Jan Salmon P4, Andreas Koenig is P5. Make that P6 as Eric Chung has gone through. And here, side by side then, this fight continuing between Giuseppe Romelli and Jan Salmon. And Salmon has gone through, Nico, and he's got the best of Giuseppe Romelli. And now Eric Chung wants a bite at this cherry also. Jan Salmon then determined right at the very start and the opening laps to get by Giuseppe Romelli and retake that position. He's done it now, and he's up to P3. Andreas Koenig is the next to have Giuseppe Romelli inside his target sights. And here's Andrea Levy then. Ahead of them, Stephen Earle then, the number 100 car. Bear in mind that Stephen Earle is under investigation, but this is our race leader. Zois Grimpias 1.9 seconds ahead of Shintaro Akatsu. Then it's Jan Salmon. Then it is Eric Chung P4. And then it's Giuseppe Romelli and Andreas Koenig.
Yeah, lots of going forth and back. Places being traded almost every turn and every opportunity. So Grimpias unfazed, 1.9 seconds to the good in front, but behind him everything is happening.
Indeed it is. And there you can see Eric Chung. Now Andreas Koenig made up 2 places, Stephen Earle made up 3 places, but he is under investigation. And Talal Shire from the very back of the pack has made up 4 places and now is running in P13. So Andreas Koenig then in the 104 car. Of course, he is being chased hard by Stephen Earle. Then it is Andrea Levy and Guy Favet ahead of Paolo Scudieri, completing the top 10 as they cross the timing line right now. Zois Grimpias extending his lead to 2.272 seconds now. 25 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell AM race as we take a look at the start once again in replay. As all the cars rounded the final turn and headed towards the lighting gantry as the display warned all the drivers that we're sitting at 32 degrees. All drivers have to go through their grid boxes, which they did right at the very start of the race. And it was Giuseppe Romelli who had a fantastic start. He certainly put himself ahead of Andrea Levy right at the start. That was the first one, knocked off his list. And here we can see it from a completely different angle then. Love to hear those 296 cars scream down the start-finish straight here. And into turn number 1, it became very busy indeed. And there you could see Stephen Earle, who really rather shortcutted that turn, and that's why he is under investigation. So Grimpias sets the fastest lap ahead of Shintaro Akatsu and Jan Salmon. Eric Chung, Giuseppe Romelli and Andreas Koenig, as Stephen Earle has given some places back there, I feel. So Giuseppe Romelli for the moment has seen off the charge from Andreas Koenig, but it may well come again, and Paolo Scudieri getting a bit sideways there and having lost 1 or 2 pieces of bodywork, I believe.
And I also think Roland Hurtner may use the opportunity when through, if I saw that correctly.
I'm sure.
Yes, I think he did. And Roland Hurtner has been really, really good over the last few races. And yesterday in particular, he was just beaten by Jan Sandman for the podium. So he would like to be higher up than P10. But we've got more than 23 minutes plus a lap remaining. So lots of race time remaining as Zois Grimpias has extended his lead to 2 seconds. And there is another replay of what's been happening.
There was a little coming together there between Roland Hurtner and Paolo Scudieri, hence the debris I could see flying off those cars. That was around the long winding right-hander as Andrea Levy and Andreas Koenig get together, but Andrea Levy is ahead now of Andreas Koenig, and that is for P6 in the race. So Andrea Levy, who did a brilliant job yesterday, and one of our most fantastic overtakes. Now they will put the chase on to Giuseppe Romelli, who is running P5. It's Eric Chung P4, and then right behind Stephen Earle and Roland Hurtner having this battle. Mutlu Tarzev and Tal Al-Sher also getting past the Paolo Scudieri car as a consequence of Roland Hurtner and Paolo Scudieri having that little coming together. Is there something on the Andreas Koenig car? I just noticed the front spoiler, the front end of that, or the left-hand corner as we look at the car front on. As Jan Sandman sets the fastest lap at 2:06.893. Now, fastest lap has come from the driver that is P3 at the moment, so he is now, effectively, he's got the Shintaro Akatsu car on the end of his fishing line and is beginning to reel him in. As we go inside the garages and look on as Zois Grimpias just focuses on what he needs to do, which is just get up the road. Jan Sandman on something of a charge here. So there's Zois Grimpias P1, Shintaro Akatsu is P2, and then Jan Sandman, fastest lap. You can see the pink indicator on the graphics to the left-hand side of your screen. So Shintaro Akatsu is going to come under pressure, I would think, from Jan Sandman if he can maintain that speed around the next lap or so. In the meantime, Josef Schumacher has got Lisa Clark and Alvaro Ramos and Hassan Debussy for company there. So Josef Schumacher then running in P13, Lisa Clark in the 130 car, trying to find a way past the Josef Schumacher, one of the more colourful cars in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell and back. And Alvaro Ramos, the Portuguese racer who of course raced at his home event in Portimao just a couple of weeks ago. So Lisa Clark going to be king of the late breakers going into turn number 1 potentially, or it's about now that she would need to dive out of the slipstream of the Josef Schumacher car. Hassan Debussy taking a look at the inside of Alvaro Ramos. This is the fight that's going on for P13 in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am race as they go side by side now. Lisa Clark on the inside almost of Josef Schumacher. This is Mutlu Tarzev. And the car of Tal Al-Sher as well, but let's go back to this. Now, Lisa Clark was not able to make the move stick, but undoubtedly she is trying to make her way up the order. Now, can tell you from race control, I've been informed that Stephen Earle, who gained an advantage through having to take to the runoff area. That's Eric Chung, and I think that's Jan Sandman, Nico.
Yeah, it looks like it, and there is that Shintaro Akatsu, who's also off the track, so that's going to be interesting to see what happened there. And quick replay, there is Shintaro Akatsu. Definitely is, and there is Jan Sandman, who's really just basically cutting across the track. But he keeps his foot in, and well, coming
that's
from
unfortunate.
Yeah, and coming from off the track, that's obviously not something that Shintaro was expecting, and that's. We talked about Shintaro Akatsu being so quick and not having had a podium, and he's just not had the run of the luck thus far.
No, that has changed the shape of things a little bit. I was about to tell you that Stephen Earle, who gained an advantage from running off the track, having given the places back, and we saw him give those places back, no further action is going to be taken. So right now, Jan Sandman finds himself, unfortunately, right at the back of the pack. Paolo Scudieri has brought the car into the his car into the pit lane following that contact with Roland Hurtner. Now, there is the Paolo Scudieri car. Andrea Levy on Giuseppe Romelli. I think that worked, and he's gone through. So the incident involving cars 159 and 101 in turn 11 is under investigation. That is the Roland Hurtner Paolo Scudieri incident. I can see that on my message screen. So it's Zois Grimpias ahead of Eric Chung and Shintaro Akatsu, who did very well to get the car back in the right direction again and retain a provisional podium place with P3. We've got a yellow flag. I suspect the localized yellow is for the stricken
Jan Sandman car,
Jan
probably.
Sandman car. Jan is out of the car. What a great shame. He's been so good, and that was just unfortunate going into the chicane. Now, is the car in a position of safety, Nico? That's what we would be interested in seeing. It is yellow flag at the moment, and still Lisa Clark trying to find a way past the car of Josef Schumacher. It's a four-way fight going on at the moment. Ball P12. As Hassan Debussy has made his way past Alvaro Ramos, but Alvaro Ramos takes the place back again. So it's all seesawing there for P14 and 15 as Hassan Debussy and Alvaro Ramos trade places. Nico?
Yeah, and there looks to be a little bit of a part loose on the right front of the Alvaro Ramos car. Not something that looks particularly ominous, but something to keep an eye on, because it can come loose and then hinder potentially other drivers, but we will find out. In the meantime, Shintaro Akatsu is running in P3, but Andrea Levy is coming up close, and he is going to challenge for that podium position before too long if everything stays the same. And
well
indeed,
called.
there
well
is
called.
that
He's right there, isn't he? Now, I'm just concerned as to where the stricken car of Jan Sandman is. It's on the exit of the chicane on the Mistral Straight. If it's out of harm's way, we can continue racing without the intervention of a safety car and just a localized yellow.
However, it takes away one of the prime overtaking opportunities.
Absolutely
because under
right.
yellow flag, that chicane effectively stops being an option, and Hassan Debussy has gone back past the Alvaro Ramos car, so you get lots of overtakes here, even though the net result may be 0.
Well, Lisa Clark, Josef Schumacher ran a bit wide there. Hassan Debussy is looking very lively here. So now Lisa Clark, who is trying to attack Josef Schumacher, is going to have to defend from Hassan Debussy, having dispatched the car of Ramos for the moment. And there you can see Hassan Debussy trying to get to the inside of Lisa Clark. Hasn't been able to do that yet. Whilst all that is going on, at the head of that queue, Josef Schumacher is rubbing his hands with invisible soap, because all of a sudden, the more they fight behind him, the more he can concentrate on doing what he needs to do. However, Lisa Clark relights the wick and gets closer. Heading along this very fast straight, tries to dive to the inside, not quite close enough to be able to do so. And of course, that yellow flag area, you're not allowed to overtake anyway, so it's academic, isn't it, Nico?
Yeah, and I think Josef Schumacher was aware of that, and
Yes.
I don't want to say he wanted to invite it, but he wasn't concerned about Lisa Clark going by on that particular spot of the track. For the time being, that overtaking possibility is removed out of the equation. Not out of the equation at all is Andrea Levy on Shintaro Akatsu, and he's really ramped up the pressure, and you can see Andreas Koenig is looking to enter this battle. This is for the podium, P3, 4 and 5.
Yes, he's ready to pounce, isn't he? Absolutely ready to pounce. So Shintaro Akatsu then, at the moment, holding on to that P3 position. Andrea Levy takes a look at the inside. So Levy, of course, is trying to attack Shintaro Akatsu ahead, but he's also having to defend from Andreas Koenig, who's running P5. So there we have the graphics for the Akatsu and Levy car. Shintaro Akatsu running P3, Andrea Levy P4. Just about half distance in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am race. Their final race of the weekend here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, south of France. So Zois Grimpias leading by very nearly, or just over 4 seconds actually. And in replay here, this is Hassan Debussy getting by Lisa Clark. So Lisa Clark, who was focusing on attacking Josef Schumacher, has found that she was vulnerable to an overtake from Hassan Tabusi, and now Hassan Tabusi is saying, let me have a go at the seemingly immovable Josef Schumacher right now. So Hassan Tabusi, brilliant driving we're seeing from him with a number of overtakes as here comes Andrea Levy on Shintaro Akatsu. But Shintaro is able to carry enough speed and enough momentum that he denies Andrea Levy at the moment. And Andreas Koenig on Andrea Levy now. Side by side they go. Racing room is left. And, well, that was a bold move by Andreas Koenig, but it's paid off, Nico.
Yeah, and that's a prime example. If you attack and you're denied, that can all of a sudden leave you vulnerable. And where Andrea Levy seemed primed for a podium just a moment ago, now he's relegated to P5, and Andreas Koenig may potentially have a chance at Shintaro Akatsu. But if this race is anything to go by, that probably will put Andrea Levy back in contention for P4.
I would agree.
So very, very good racing, very fair racing, but everything really, really developing, and more often than not in ways that you don't necessarily expect.
That's a fair point. Here they come then. Andrea Levy tracking Andreas Koenig now. Shintaro Akatsu saying thank goodness for that, because I can focus on what I need to do. In the meantime, Guy Favre is taking a look at Giuseppe Romelli here, Nico. So, Giuseppe Romelli running P6, Guy Favre running P7, and Stephen Earle running P8. So whichever way you look in this Coppa Am race, there's plenty going on, that's for sure. All of which is playing nicely into the hands of Zoe Scrimpias, who's leading by just under 4 seconds from Eric Chung. So, Shintaro Akatsu, despite being turned around, Nico, nothing has dampened the ardour or indeed his speed. But you can see that Andreas Koenig is absolutely determined. His lights on full beam to try and break the focus of Shintaro Akatsu. Yellow flag's been lifted, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it. So that overtaking opportunity is back in play, and now Andreas Koenig is as close as he's been, and now he is really in the slipstream, and he goes on the inside. That is the better line coming into that turn, and I rather think he may have done it or hasn't. No, not quite. Shintaro Akatsu steadfast, keeps the momentum.
Andreas Koenig is definitely hunting here, Shintaro Akatsu. This is what it's like inside the garage then with the Andrea Levy team. Riding on board with Andrea Levy on the right-hand side of our picture here. Meantime, Andreas Koenig is attacking Shintaro Akatsu. And here into this final sequence of turns. Now, if Andreas Koenig can get a very good exit off the final turn here and get the momentum down the start-finish straight, he could have a go going into turn number 1. Let's see as we pick them up right now. This is Shintaro Akatsu, currently P3. Right behind is Andreas Koenig. Is he close enough to dive to the inside? I don't think he is. Guy Favre just taking a look at the inside of Giuseppe Romelli. Zoe Scrimpias leading from Eric Chung and Shintaro Akatsu. That's the way it looks at the moment. Guy Favre does get by Giuseppe Romelli. So that is a move up to P6 as Andreas Koenig has gone around.
Oh.
So valiant effort by Andreas Koenig to try and overtake, and in so doing lost the back end of the car, I rather feel.
Yeah, somehow it's always in this race, whatever you expect to happen, right the opposite. And
got caught out by a curb, I think, Nico.
Yeah, indeed.
Just unsettled the car. I heard the Pirellis screaming in protest before I actually saw him going around. So that means Andrea Levy is going to retake the charge of attacking Shintaro Akatsu, one would assume. Here's Zoe Scrimpias, who's led something of a privileged existence at 3.5 seconds up the road from Eric Chung, and has been troubled little, to be honest. And with just under 10 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, he can just focus on everything that he needs to do in the race to maintain that P1 position. Here's Stephen Earle taking a look at Giuseppe Romelli right now, as Stephen Earle in replay, this is, dives to the inside of the Giuseppe Romelli car. You've got to have so much confidence in the brakes and being able to rotate the car, and in fairness, Stephen Earle was able to do that. And that was a good overtake. That puts Stephen Earle ahead of Giuseppe Romelli, and by my reckoning, that will be P6 as Roland Hurtner is next in the queue. There is Roland Hurtner. Running P8 at the moment. And there's Giuseppe Romelli in the 172 car. So Guy Favre running P5. Put a good move on Giuseppe Romelli, as did Stephen Earle. Andreas Koenig managed to get the car turned around again, and he's back, but running P9. But valiant effort by Andreas Koenig, but just getting caught out, as I say, by that curb going into the chicane. That was enough to send the car pirouetting around.
Yeah, and the gap between Scrimpius and Chung has come down a little bit. It's just under 3 seconds now, but you kind of get the impression that it's Zoe Scrimpius just managing the gap. Can't see him really getting in trouble for the time being, and now he has extended the lead just a little bit. Again, it's above 3 seconds again, so really firm in control with his driver coach in his ear and the team giving him advice, and Eric Chung is trying to get on terms with him, but that's very easy said and very hard to do.
I think you're right. I think Zois is just managing it, isn't he? He's managing the position very well. Interestingly, the top 3 drivers, none of whom have attracted any warnings with regards to track limits. However, those that are behind, including Andrea Levy and Guy Favre and Stephen Earle and Giuseppe Romelli and Roland Hurtner and indeed Andreas Koenig, all have track limits warnings. Now, if the race were to finish right now, Nico, and I don't see this changing, Jan Sandman would still, even though he's not running, get the fastest lap point. And I would think with the tyre deg the way it is now, that probably Jan Sandman's fastest lap is not going to be taken away from him.
No, very likely not. I mean, the only one running in the 206 is Eric Chung with a 206.8, and the fastest lap is a 206.119, so we're quite a little bit away from that. So yeah, very good call. Again, Eric Chung has taken time out of Zoe Scrimpius. It's down to 2.0 seconds, so maybe a little bit too close for comfort, but again, not currently seeing any trouble necessarily. The Andreas Koenig spin obviously has given Shintaro Katsu a little bit of a breathing room, and there is Guy Favre.
He has been driving like an absolute demon today. That puts him up to P4, having got past Andrea Levy, and that was a brilliant overtake into turn number 1.
Yeah, Guy Favre has really found the pace here in Le Castellet. Really good driving, and there you can see that the gap has indeed come down just a little bit. So is Scrimpius and then Eric Chung. 5 minutes, 40 seconds plus a lap remaining, so it's gonna be, will it be interesting by the end of the race? We hope it's gonna be a battle come the end of the race. So Scrimpius will have other ideas.
What Zois can ill afford to do now is make one mistake. As Hassan Debussy then finds his way past Josef Schumacher. That's for P14. And there is the, or there are the 2 cars, P14 and P15, Hassan Debussy and Josef Schumacher. So Zoe Scrimpius, Eric Chung, and around has gone the Giuseppe Romelli car. Now that's taken him out of P6, and thankfully he avoids the other cars, gauges reverse, and then we'll get going once again. The waved yellow will warn all the other drivers that, was there an assist there? No, I think Giuseppe going around all on his own. There was a little bit of contact, ironically, on Andreas Koenig, as it was almost a carbon copy of yesterday, except the cars were reversed yesterday when Andreas Koenig and Giuseppe Romelli got together.
Yeah, and again, it was Giuseppe Romelli was almost off the track when he came back on, and I don't necessarily think that Andreas Koenig was expecting that, but you can see Giuseppe Romelli is not quite at race pace anymore, and there is
Stephen Earle, Favre, isn't it?
Yeah, he's also up into P5 and could very well move up into P4. So some drivers are moving up the order, and then all of a sudden pace reversal, and indeed Stephen Earle on the inside, but not quite able to make it stick. gap between Scrimpius and Chung down to 1.5 seconds, was down to 1.3 just a moment ago.
Wow.
So it's still enough, and obviously getting close and getting past are two different things. And I reckon there's going to be some nervousness maybe in the Amico garage.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, this is Stephen Earle chasing Guy Favet. And we'll also see Andrea Levy dropping down the order on our timing screen. So something has happened to Andrea Levy, I would think. He's come into the pit lane, as has Giuseppe Romelli. There's Giuseppe Romelli into the pit lane. I'm kind of not surprised because he turned the car around and then there was contact, wasn't there? But Andrea Levy can't really quite see the reason why Andrea Levy's had to bring the car into the pit lane. Zoe Scrimpias, Eric Chung, 1.472 seconds. Last time they were across a timing sector was the gap between P1 and P2. But visibly now, Nico, you can see that Eric Chung is getting closer. Now, whilst Zois may have been controlling the gap between P1 and P2, probably now needs to get the hurry up, I would suggest.
Yeah, and since they will cross the timing line with more than 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining, that means it's going to be 3 more laps after this one. And that is now really, really close. So we were 1 second at the last interval. It's 0.3 seconds now. So Eric Chung has really, really caught up with Zois Scrimpias, and Zois really has to defend into that first chicane.
So we saw just briefly Corinne Chung, who is Eric Chung's wife, looking on as Eric has really reeled in Zoe Scrimpias now. 2 minutes plus a lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Am race then. As Zoe Scrimpias, it looked like it got it all under complete control, but Eric Chung, over the last few laps, has really got much, much closer to Zoe Scrimpias. So, where and when is he going to make his move? Well, going into the chicane on the Mistral Straight might be one opportunity, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is another replay, and there is, again, the same spot as previously, Guy Favet and Stephen Earle, and this time Stephen Earle was far enough alongside, and he made the move on the inside, so nothing doing into the chicane here. So Scrimpias keeps it together, holds on to the lead, and emerges. But Eric Chung, he is really close.
He is certainly really close. I mean, looks for a wider line going into this turn. Zoe Scrimpias then takes his preferred line. It would just need a millimetric moment of focus loss for Zoe Scrimpias for Eric Chung to try and find a way through. Eric Chung will take a look to the inside now. Zoe Scrimpias closes the door. So this is the fight that's going on for the Coppa Am Race 2 lead. Corinne Chung then on the right-hand side of the screen looks on as her husband does everything he possibly can to try and find a way past Zoe Scrimpias. One thing you can say about these two drivers is the fight might be fraught, but it will be fair, I would suggest.
Absolutely, and you kind of get the impression that Eric Chung's tires are a little bit fresher. He seems to have a little bit more grip going through the technical parts of the track, and that puts him in a position to overtake, but he still has to have the momentum, he has to have the speed at the end of the straight, and thus far it hasn't happened.
That's right, Zoe Scrimpias positioned the car perfectly going into that turn to deny Eric the opportunity around the outside, and he certainly was too late to get a switch back there to the inside line. Here is Shintaro Akatsu then, who's kind of out on his own in P3, and a great finish from Stephen Earle, who's P4 at the moment. So again, where will Eric try and pick his spot here? You can see he's driving completely different lines in the hope of really just unsettling Zoe Scrimpias. Now, Zoe may be a rookie driver up against one of the most experienced Ferrari Challenge drivers. Thus far, he's defended really, really well. We've got the remainder of this lap plus one more, I believe.
Absolutely, the clock has hit zeros, but it's this lap plus one more. Eric Chung not quite close enough into the chicane, one would think, unless it's a very, very late lunge, but no, that's not the case. And we've lauded Zoe Scrimpias obviously for his pace, but also for his maturity already. He's been very, very calm, collected, driving with his head, and it's gonna, I think it's too much to ask from Eric Chung for Zoe Scrimpius to just make a mistake and hand him the win.
I agree.
I think if he wants to win it, he will have to make the move himself.
I think you're right. So, Eric then around this long sweeping turn as Zoe Scrimpias runs a bit wider than Eric Chung. This allows Eric Chung to get much closer to him. So, final sequence of turns to come now on this Circuit Paul Ricard. This is a phenomenal fight right to the finish of this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Race 2 of the weekend. So, Zoe's hard on the brakes. Eric is as close to Zoe Scrimpias as he can be. One more right-hander to do before the start-finish straight, and then starting of the final lap. Now, every lap previous to this, Eric Chung has gone to the outside of Zoe Scrimpias going into turn number 1. Is he going to adopt an inside line move this time? I don't think it's close enough to be able to do it.
No, he doesn't.
Or is he?
No,
Not quite close enough.
No, it wasn't there. I think what he wants to do is sell Zoyce a little bit of a dummy to have more momentum and then have that extra momentum figure when he gets to the next prime overtaking opportunity. But Zoyce hasn't given him that opportunity, hasn't made that mistake, and Eric Chung is running out of options.
He is. He's running out of options, running out of places where he can do it. So Zoe Scrimpias, P1, Eric Chung, P2, Shintaro Akatsu, P3. That's the way it looks at the moment. Stephen Earle finishes P4. That will be his best finish of the season and richly deserved as well. But for the moment, we focus on this fight for the lead of the race between Zoe Scrimpias and Eric Chung. And I really rather think the best opportunity for Eric Chung maybe to get ahead of Zoe Scrimpias has gone away. So you can see Eric carrying so much speed into this chicane, but the gap now is probably just big enough for Zoe Scrimpias to be able to control this until the end of the race.
It's maybe the last turn. We saw it from Giacomo Alto in the Pirelli race. That would potentially be the last opportunity, but I do just think Zoe Scrimpias now, he's back and he's found his groove again, he's found the grip again, and he's looks much more controlled than he did 5 minutes ago. And unless he loses time before then, the margin is just good enough and large enough to keep Eric Chung at bay.
I think you might be right, but Eric gets last-ditch effort then as he really closes into the back of the Zoe Scrimpias car. I really rather think the best opportunities have gone away now, but it's been a phenomenal fight between these two drivers. I said it would be fraught, but I also said it would be fair, and I think it has been. Eric has not done anything daredevil, and Zoyce has not defended in a way that has been anything other than gentlemanly as they head towards the line now. It is going to be Zoe Scrimpias that will win the race, marginally ahead of Eric Chung, who takes P2. And those two with phenomenal pace are some distance ahead of Shintaro Akatsu, who will see any moment rounding the final turn. Here he comes, and it will be P3 for Shintaro Akatsu. There he heads towards the checkered flag, and Stephen Earle will take P4. So Shintaro Akatsu takes his checkered flag. There's Stephen Earle with the best finish this season ahead of Guy Favre and Andreas Koenig and Roland Hurtner. Wow, right at the very end, it looked like things could be a change in, Nico.
Absolutely, and also Guy Favre matching his best result of the season with a P5. Very, very good drive from him. Andreas Koenig also with a strong race. Obviously the one unfortunate moment where he spun around Roland Hurtner, confirming that he really has found pace. Bad luck for the likes of Andrea Levi, Jan Sandman, Paolo Scudieri, who we lost in the race and who didn't finish for one reason or another. But Zoe Scrimpias, I mean, the maturity is just amazing. Really, really amazing, and great pace. And there is one more overtake potentially, Lisa Clark. Oh, and not an overtake, but actually it is the 1-5 car, 5-0 car of Alvaro Ramos, who went around in an attempt to make a last lap effort on Lisa Clark. But as we can tell, Alvaro Ramos has finished in P11, so he does see the checkered flag.
Wow. So there is Zoe Scrimpias then. And the ability he had to absorb the pressure right at the end of that race, Nico, really, really good to see. There is no doubt you know, having made his debut in motor racing and the Ferrari Challenge at the beginning of this year, he's learned a lot, and the maturity with which to absorb the attack that's coming from behind is something that he's learned really well as well. Zois Grimpias takes the win from Eric Chung and Shintaro Akatsu. Then it was Stephen Earle, Guy Favre, Andreas Koenig, Roland Hurtner, Mutlu Tazev with P8. Well done, Mutlu. And then taking P9, it is the car of Talal Shayer. He is P9 ahead of Lisa Clark, and then Alvaro Ramos, Hassan Debussy, Josef Schumacher, Giuseppe Romelli, and regrettably we lost the likes of Andrea Levy, Jan Salmon and Paolo Scudieri, who were not able to finish the race, but well done to all our drivers in the Coppa Shell Am category. Their next race, of course, will come at the Nürburgring, which is where we head next with the Ferrari Challenge. Well, finish the racing weekend here on an absolute high. There's no question about that, and credit to both Zois Grimpias and Eric Chung for keeping the action together right until the very end of the race, Nico, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I have to say that the entire weekend has been filled with great racing all across yesterday and today. And I think it's just a testament to the 296 and what it does and what it allows the drivers to do, the supreme confidence in the grip, and you combine that with the aspiration and the talent level, and it's just amazing racing all across the year and embodied by this man.
Yes, well done to Zois Grimpias. And well done also to Eric Chung. He couldn't have thrown any more at it, could he, at the end there?
No, and I think you can tell his voice that the fact that it wasn't easy, that it came down to the wire, and that he withstood the challenge of a great driver like Eric Chung made it even sweeter. And we talked about Shintaro Akatsu and the podium curse, and he was spun around. He didn't have it easy again, but this time it's P3, and we will see him on the podium. And among all the great drives, I'm also very happy for him.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's very fair. Remarkable stuff. Remarkable stuff. So celebrations down there in the pit lane. And Shintaro Akatsu then, tempted to say, gets that monkey off his back, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think you can also tell from the reaction. I mean, there is joy in the podium, but I think there was the knowledge that the pace was always there.
Great discussions there between Zois Grimpias and Eric Chung as well about the strategies that they employed. So Zois Grimpias then, a rookie driver into the Ferrari Challenge at the beginning of the season. You wouldn't know it when you look at his race graph now, would you? Absolutely remarkable stuff. Well done to Zois Grimpias. In the 168 car, he has done it again, all over again, but he had pressure right at the very end, didn't he?
Congratulations, what an incredible weekend for you, double pole position and double win here at Paul Ricard.
Amazing, amazing. The best weekend in my life. The best weekend. The car is fantastic, the track fantastic. Cheung. Oh my goodness, a few laps more and I don't know if I could handle him in my back. Super, super nice. I really, really enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
To the next.
As he alluded there, not sure he could have held on for many more laps with Eric Chung. Okay, let's take a look at the highlights of that Coppa Shell Am race. So as the cars headed down the start finish straight for the Coppa Shell Am race 2, it was Zois Grimpias. And going into turn number 1, it was Giuseppe Romelli that was looking very, very lively, but around the outside was Eric Chung. And, of course, Shintaro Akatsu was able to slot into P2. Now, Stephen Earle had to take to the runoff area, and he gained quite some positions, which he had to give those back. And Andrea Levy, with a great opportunity into the chicane, he was trying to make some overtakes as well. Zois Grimpias, well, he was just getting about his business, and that was getting up the road and trying to build as big a margin as he possibly could. Roland Hurtner and Paolo Scudieri had a little bit of a coming together, and it was really disadvantageous, unfortunately, for Shintaro Akatsu, who got turned around quite unintentionally by Jan Sandman. However, he would be able to come back, and there was lots of overtaking going on between Hassan Debussy and Josef Schumacher and Lisa Clark. And that would continue for many laps, and Josef Schumacher, not getting the perfect entry into the chicane, played into the hands of Alvaro Ramos, but also Lisa Clark, and through they would go. Now, Shintaro Akatsu had the rear view of Andreas Koenig spinning around, which was a great shame, and then Roland Hurtner then with Giuseppe Romelli and Andreas Koenig here. And Giuseppe Romelli making contact, Giuseppe Romelli on this occasion going around. But in the end, it would be Zois Skrimpias that would be victorious ahead of Eric Chung. So, we will be heading up to the podium next for the final podium of our weekend here in the Paul Ricard circuits.
On the podium, the first podium.
Taking P3, and Shintaro Akatsu then takes to the, he doesn't know where to go, Nico. There you go. That's what it's like when it's your first podium. P3 for Shintaro Akatsu. P2 for Eric Chung. And Zois Skrimpias to the top step of the podium once again. And of course, the national anthem will play out for our race winner. Trophy presentation time. Of course, the Anico Rapado Corsa Ram team will be represented on the podium as well, and they will be in receipt of the Coppa Teams trophy. And of course, Zois and Shintaro both racing for the same team as Ferrari factory driver Lilu Wadu makes the trophy presentations. First of all to Shintaro Akatsu, then to Eric Chung. Then the first place trophy, the one that says B1, will be going the way of Zois Skrimpias, Nico.
Yeah, quite a few of those already.
Indeed.
Plus a few Rotiform pole position awards, so more than one trophy per race that he has entered.
That's amazing, isn't it? So all the drivers will get together on the top step of the podium for a photograph. At the moment, Eric waits patiently whilst they have something of a team's one. Lift the trophy up high. Super picture. And there is team principal, Sir Giorgio Sonagiotto. I think Zois was quickest with the champagne. He's getting soaked now. Taking P3, Shintaro Akatsu. Taking P2, Eric Chung. And taking P1, Zois Skrimpias. Race winner. So in the Drivers' Championship then, Zois Skrimpias with 45 points ahead of Eric Chung, and then Andreas Koenig P3 in the Drivers' Championship points. Then it's Jan Salmon, Andrea Levy, Shintaro Akatsu moves up one place, Paolo Scudieri drops one, and then it's Roland Hurtner P8 in the Drivers' Championship ahead of Mudlu Tarzev, Henrik Hamstrup, Stephen Earle, Guy Fabe, Talal Shea, Hassan Debussy and Alvaro Ramos then occupying the positions through to 15th. Ahead of Lisa Clark, Louis Peruskia, missing this weekend, Giuseppe Romelli, Josef Schumacher, Max Earth, George, Maurizio Pittori and Frank Kevitz. Then you can see how many drivers have contested in the Coppa Shell Am Drivers' Championship so far this season of 2020. So we have had a fantastic weekend here at the Paul Ricard circuit. And from Nico, from myself, and from the entire production team, thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you at Nürburgring, the next round of the Ferrari Challenge Europe. Bye-bye for now.